Hi everyone, welcome to the Chemical and Biomedical Engineering Subcommittee. Today we're going to talk about allergies and drug delivery in medicine. So you might be wondering what chemical and biomedical engineers do. Chemical engineers work to safely make large amounts of gasoline and other fuels, medicine, food, and more. Biomedical engineers work to make medical devices like replacement knees, or machines that can help diagnose medical problems like X-ray machines. Here are some fun facts about chemical and biomedical engineering. Did you know that in 1993, a group of biomedical engineers from Scotland developed the first fully functional bionic arm that worked as if it was a real arm? Or did you know that biomedical engineers have developed special types of bacteria to use in vaccines like your flu shots? Or did you know that chemical engineers likely designed the factories where some of your favorite snacks are produced? Super cool stuff. In this activity, we're going to talk about how medicine works. Have you ever been sick and had to take medicine to make you feel better? If you have, how often did you have to take the medicine? Did you have to take it every 5 minutes, or did you only have to take it a couple times a day? In biomedical and chemical engineering, we try to figure out how to make the medicine the most convenient for you to take while also making you feel better. So if you said you've used a medicine that you only had to take a couple times a day, someone engineered that medicine to make it work for a long time after one dose, so that you only need to take the medicine a few times a day. We're going to show you how drug delivery makes this possible. So, what is drug delivery? In the medical field, drug delivery refers to how medicine is being delivered to the body. This can be done in a lot of ways for a lot of reasons. For example, you may take a pill for your allergies, or maybe you take medicine in a liquid form when you have a fever. These are different types of drug delivery because the medicine is being taken through a pill or a liquid. So what are some ways we can do this? Now that we know what drug delivery is, what are some ways we can deliver medicine to the body? Well, we know liquids and pills can deliver medicine from the example on the last slide, but what about a cream or an ointment like Neosporin? Maybe the medicine would work best if it was given through an IV at the hospital, or breathed in through an inhaler. You can also deliver medicine through an injection or shot, like an EpiPen. So why do we want different ways to deliver medicine? Now we know some of the ways we can deliver medicine to the body, but why is it important for biomedical engineers to understand drug delivery? Well, different problems need different solutions. Drug delivery allows the medicine to be applied to the sickness or injury properly. So think back to the Neosporin example. If you fall and scrape your elbow, you're going to want something to put directly on your skin where you got hurt because that's what's going to make it feel better the quickest. Also, some medicine needs to work fast, like an EpiPen, while other medicine needs to last a long time, like allergy medicine. Remember, allergy medicine is one of the ones delivered through a pill, and it would be the most convenient for us to only have to take it once a day. So how can we make drug delivery last longer so that we would only have to take a pill once a day? One of the ways biomedical engineers can make medicine last longer is by making it release slower. This can be done with capsules that release the medicine in the stomach. The longer it takes to fully release, the longer the medicine lasts. Now, we know that when we eat and swallow food, it goes to our stomachs. When the food goes to our stomach, it gets digested and broken down into little pieces by the liquid that's inside the stomach. So the same thing happens when we swallow a pill. So engineers sometimes add a shell to the outside of a pill that makes it take longer for the stomach to break it down. The longer it takes, the longer you get to go without taking another pill. So our experiment is going to be making our own drug delivery system. We're going to be using Skittles and Sprite to simulate the medicine and the stomach acid. Your goal is to create a coating for your Skittle to make it last as long as you can in the Sprite. You can make a clay out of the materials, or you can coat them in the materials. It's up to you. Start by brainstorming and then move on to the experiment. So before we show you the activity, I'm just going to read you the steps to follow. First, place a Skittle in the Sprite by itself and watch what happens to the Skittle. Ask yourself, does it dissolve quickly or slowly? And does the hard coating of the Skittle disappear? Next, think of different ways to create a coating for the Skittle. The goal is to make the Skittle dissolve slower. Using the supplies you have, can you create a clay or maybe a paste that can protect the Skittle? And would there be a difference in the coating if you mix the ingredients in a different order? Once you have your coating, put the new drug in the Sprite. Does it last longer or shorter than the first one? And think, what could you do differently to make the coating? And what are some medicines in general that could need a coating?
All right, so here we go. I'm pouring the Sprite here into a clear cup to make sure that I can see the reaction. And then I am just going to take one Skittle, not coated in anything, and drop it in. So here, we'll zoom in for you guys. You can see that the Skittles coating is dissolving pretty quickly because the bubbles are going at a fast rate. Eventually, you will see that the orange dissolves completely and the Skittle just turns white because it has no orange coloring on the outside of it anymore. And the Sprite actually begins to turn orange. So here we have our timer started, and we're just going to let it keep going until it turns white. So because the Skittle sits on the bottom of the cup, you're going to want to flip it over, which I am doing right here, just to get that last little spot of the coating completely dissolved. So now that you flip the Skittle over, you just need to let that last little bit of color completely dissolve, and then make sure that you record the time that it took to completely dissolve all of the colored coating, and you are good to move on to the next Skittles using the materials that we have listed for different ways to slow the dissolving process. And that's it. So I'm just going to take it out. And then here is our final time whenever we did it. So your alls might be somewhere close to there. Okay, so moving on to using our different materials. I'm starting here by coating the Skittle in flour alone. And then I am placing it on this paper towel here with just flour labeled so that you guys can see the different ones that we make. So then I'm going to put some cornstarch into a bowl to do the same thing and repeat the same process by just dipping the Skittle into the cornstarch by itself and then placing it on that paper towel for you guys to see everything labeled. So the next one that I'm doing is sugar by itself. This is just regular granulated sugar. So I'm putting some of that into the bowl, and then I'm going to coat the Skittle in that too. So this one was kind of stubborn and doesn't stick super well, but still went ahead and used it. It's worth trying. So next I'm just going to take some flour, put it on this little clear plate that I have, and then I'm going to add some oil to it to kind of make a runny paste. Here I'm just mixing it up. So now I'm just grabbing another Skittle and then coating it in this little mixture that I made. So now I'm doing that same thing, but instead of flour, I am using cornstarch. I just put some cornstarch on the separate plate, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of oil to it and then mix it up and coat the Skittle. And since the cornstarch has a little bit of a different consistency than the flour, I used a lot less oil this time. So like the flour and oil mixture, this one is also more paste-like. And then I dipped the Skittle in the cornstarch first just to help it stick a little bit better. And now I am coating it in the cornstarch and oil mixture. So the next one that we're going to do is just a freestyle is what we called it. And this one you can basically just mix anything that you want. So I just did a combination of all of the different ingredients that we have. As you can see here, I did some scoops of flour, and then I added just a little bit of sugar, and then finally some cornstarch. I'm going to add some oil here in a second just to mix it all up. So now I'm just adding the oil, and then I'm going to mix that all together to bind it together, and then I'll put it in the Skittle. Now I'm just adding a little bit of extra flour to thicken it up a little bit more and make it a little easier to go on the Skittle. So now you can see that it's really just a dough kind of paste situation, which is going to make for a pretty thick coating on the Skittle. So now I'm adding the Skittle and I'm just going to cover it. So spoon works a little bit, but It's easier to describe it with my fingers. Then I'm just going to roll it into a ball and place it on the other paper towel. There you go. There's our freestyle. So for this one, we also wanted to demonstrate that you could just dip it alone in the different ingredients. So here I just dipped it in flour, and then I dipped it in oil. And then I put it back in the flour. So for this whole section, I'm really just showing you different ways to dip your Skittles into the different ingredients. These are just examples. You don't have to follow all of these exactly or do all of these at all. In our video, you'll see later, I don't test all of these in the spray. I just pick a couple. But this whole section, I really just wanted to demonstrate that you could do multiple dips into the different ingredients. You could just do one ingredient, or you could use two. Really anything. You can just get creative and just pretty much do whatever you want. So for this green Skittle, you can see that I did multiple layers, went back and forth between the oil, the flour, the cornstarch, and the sugar. And now it is completely layered up. So I'm going to do this purple Skittle in just oil, since we have just sugar and just cornstarch and just flour. And then here are all of our combinations. So now I'm taking the Skittle that's covered only in flour and I'm dropping it in the same glass of Sprite that we used before, just to demonstrate that the one that's covered in just flour will take longer than the one that we put in originally, the orange Skittle that we did first. It didn't have anything on it at all. So as you can see here with this purple Skittle compared to the orange Skittle that we did first, you can already see that the bubbles are coming off of it more slowly than the orange Skittle did. So therefore, this purple coating is going to take a little more time to completely dissolve off than the orange. So if we think back to the orange Skittle that we did first, it obviously dissolved pretty quickly and the orange coating was gone pretty fast. So that would simulate a type of medicine that would need to be working pretty quickly, such as an EpiPen. But in this case, the purple coloring and the flour that was on the outside of our Skittle is dissolving still pretty quickly, but slower than the orange Skittle. So this would simulate a type of medicine, probably close to Advil or other pain relievers that you'd want to work quickly, but would not need to work as quickly as something like an EpiPen. So here we're just doing the same thing and flipping it over to make sure that that last little spot of purple is completely dissolved. Now that that's pretty much gone, I'm going to go ahead and take it out, and then here is our timer. So now I'm just pouring a new glass of Sprite into my clear cup so that I can see what I'm doing a little more clearly, since my other Sprite was dyed orange and purple. So I chose to do my freestyle, which was where I have the really thick dough-like substance wrapped around my Skittle. So immediately you can see that the bubbles are a lot slower compared to the orange Skittle and the purple Skittle, although they are still kind of covering the whole coating. So I cut out some of the original footage that we had because this goes on for quite a few minutes and it's kind of boring just to watch because nothing really exciting is happening. But I did want to talk about how this would simulate a type of medicine that would need to be used for an extended release. So if you have an allergy medicine or different mental health medications, those are typically extended release drugs that need to work all day long. So as you can see here, this is obviously a very slow dissolving process, which is something that we would want to use for those types of medicines. So as you guys can see, we've really made no progress as far as any significant dissolving goes. It basically looks the same as whenever we first put it in the cup. So the whole point here was really just to show you that this would be something similar to how an extended release drug would work. And as you can see, it's been a little over 5 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and take it out. And that is the end of our activity. Thank you guys so much for participating this week and watching our video. We really wish we could see you in person, but hope you're all staying safe. Bye!